Welcome to Keep Hustling, where we are going past the why to get to the how. I'm your host, the always hustling Aaron Gordon, aka NY Risk Advisor, aka Mr. Keep Hustling. In this podcast, we will be diving deep into the professional and personal successes of our guests to find out how they hustled through the most difficult times in their life and their development to achieve the success they've gotten to today. So buckle up for what hopes to be an amazing ride. Let's get to it. Welcome to Keep Hustling with my guest, Sacha Awwa. Sacha, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Never did I ever think when I started this podcast 2.5 years ago, 140 straight weeks of doing episodes, that I would have someone who was half Swedish, half Syrian, grew up in Saudi Arabia, lived in New York, and now lived in Miami on my bingo board. So bam, you are today's winner.
Bam, indeed. I love it.
The last episode, I know this is going to drive you nuts, but our loyal listeners will hopefully appreciate this. I went into a whole thing with our guests who grew up in Anchorage, Alaska.
No way.
And I was like, oh, when I started this podcast, never did I think that I would speak to someone who grew up in Anchorage, Alaska.
So I'm top of the list now.
Now I'm like, hey, there's something here. I'm just a guy from New York. We're deleting the part of New York because you had the opportunity to be here and you decided to move to Miami. So we're just going to delete that part. We're not going to call you a New Yorker.
Okay.
Ixnay. You're not allowed. I decided that myself, and obviously I have all the power to do that because it's my show, and I'm from New York. But Sweden, Iran, half Swedish.
Half Syrian.
Half Syrian.
Yes.
Half Swedish, half Syrian, grew up in Saudi Arabia. I promise we're going to get to Miami. But, just take us there. Go. Now, just
go. So a Swedish parent and a Syrian dad collided in Dallas, Texas. So I am a cowgirl by birth. I am, I guess, Syrian Swedish by blood and Saudi Arabian by upbringing.
How did you end up? First of all, I wasn't even ready for the Texas part. So I'm my own show. You've just taken me down. But what was it like? How'd you end up in Saudi Arabia? What was it like growing up there? Like, there's got to be a story there.
So Saudi was great. I mean, think of growing up anywhere as an expat, and anybody who's listening who's ever, had the opportunity to grow up as an expat, it's kind of amazing. I mean, I was there until I was 16, and then I came to the United States for boarding school. And yeah, I mean, you kind of live in a bubble. So that's not the best part, because then, you land back in the US and you're like, what's going on in the real world? But yeah, I mean, I have friends from all over the world. There's 72 different nations in my high school. We celebrated, Earth Day was the World Day, and everybody came in their, country's costumes. So it was a lot of fun. And
which country did you come in?
I mean, I did one every year.
You wore like a cap with the Swedish flag.
Basically,
you carried the American flag, and you wore an outfit of the
cowgirl
of the
Texan.
Oh.
I mean, it was just like pick and choose, right? Be whatever you want.
I'm joking somewhat about it, but I think that there is a level of hustle juice that's injected into someone who grows up in a somewhat non-traditional way. I always talk about on this podcast that I'm as interested with the people who had boring upbringings, the people who were supposed to make it and made it, because I think that that's also fascinating.
100%.
But being the kid who grew up in New York City, financial capital of the world, according to some, never left New York City, spent a little bit of time in Israel, but other than that, like literally never left New York City.
Yeah.
I still live in the city. I just live in Queens now. There's a certain level of, okay, what would it have been like if I was the expat, if I was the person who was in, I mean, we view Saudi Arabia as like a bunch of camels and like,
I mean, somewhat.
So like, did you realize what was going on? Did you realize that you had kind of like a little bit of a different upbringing? Then when you came back, like I'm trying to get to what's below your drive.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I just, I have a book coming out in June, and I just, finalized my bio for my PR agency that I just hired. And the opening sentence of that is how I used to smuggle MTV recorded VHS in my jeans and magazines like Vogue and Teen Vogue and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, it was a slap on the wrist. Those things couldn't be found there. And it was just not, you could never watch MTV there. It wasn't allowed. And there was one time when we were going through security, they were searching the suitcases, and my dad's over there looking at me like, am I going to have to go back in and get like a lecture from these guys? The guy literally pulled out my jeans, shook them, and 2 VHS tapes just flung out of them.
Dun, dun, dun.
But yeah, I mean, I was resilient, and at a young age, I was determined to get what I wanted. And I think that that translated into my career essentially, right? Like I said, I mean, I never stepped out too far of the yellow brick road, but I mean, I definitely did tempt some restrictions because I figured, hey, why not? Let's see how far we can go with this, right?
And it's interesting you say that because I often try to read bios and kind of pick interesting things out. So I just got it from your website. I don't know if it's from your book,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of stuff that is like screaming. If I just poke the bear, something inspirational is gonna come out for our listeners. But like I'm moving around a lot. So, Sasha didn't leave a title because she failed. She left because it worked. Can you take us to what that actually means to you?
Yeah, so I think in my career, as I think with a lot of us, especially those of us who have had a taste of living in New York, you grew up there, you know what the hustle mentality is there. I had reached a peak in my career. For some, it might not have been the longevity that you want to reach. Maybe at a 9 to 5, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I figured once I had gotten to a point of reaching that C-suite level title and accolades that I had carried up until that point, I had reached a point where I could say now I can branch out on my own. Now I feel that I have a stake in the ground and I have authority, and I can take it from here. I didn't want to continue to stay in the golden shackles, if you will, even though for some it's great. And I think that there are two sides to the coin of the different types of work you want to do, whether it's you want to climb the corporate ladder, or you want to step outside and take a leap of faith. And I had decided at that point, once I had obtained the C-suite level title, I was ready to jump. I was ready to jump, and I was ready to see how my wings could carry me.
So I believe that I'm gonna take you to the next part with another awesome. This your website bio is so good,
Yeah.
and I usually don't like them, but this is good. She wasn't fulfilled because she wasn't serving. So she walked away. I'm reading from before, whatever.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm putting it all together here. So she walked away from conformity and built something different. It's interesting to me that you say things like walked away from conformity and built something different, because very often when people leave corporate, they say, I want to do it my own way, but it's not different. Meaning it's not non-conforming. It's just I want to be my own boss, or I have my own vision, or I want to do things. This, I feel like your hustle or your drive came from, I see this, and it's almost like now I know what I don't want to build,
Yes.
or right, and it's an interesting way, because I think that for most people who are driving towards that, it's far scarier. Because I can say, and I'm in an organization that has, I'm blessed to be in a family business. And we have people that are salespeople, and sometimes people come and go, and they say, okay, great. I saw how you were doing it, and I feel like I could do it better on my own.
Yeah.
Or I feel like I've reached the top, and I just want to start my own from what I learned. It's almost like you said, I took all these notes, mental, emotional.
Yes.
I see you shaking your head, right? And now I'm going to be like, okay, now I'm going to take everything else, and I'm going to not do that. So what was it like when you realized that? And like, that's hustle guts to then say like, I'm going to do everything I don't know,
Yeah.
for lack of a better
Yeah.
term.
I have to say the best part of my career in working in the 9 to 5 was quitting my jobs. Every time I quit, it was the best day of my life. When I was getting ready to move on to the next position, or before I quit and moved down to Miami, I took off about 4 months and I taught English as a second language down in Brooklyn, actually.
But you used to be a New Yorker before you decided that it
Before
was
I
just too
just
much for you.
uh,
You couldn't hack it. Or you
wow,
realized you just couldn't hack it. It's fine.
100%.
The first way to growth is to admit it.
For sure.
Okay, good.
Yeah, yeah.
Every New Yorker right now is standing up and applauding me.
Yeah. I still carry my New York license 7 years later, but we won't tell anybody.
We're coming. No. Hello. We're coming for
I'm
you.
not ready to carry a Florida
We're
license.
coming
Yeah.
for you. We're coming for you. That's it. You can't be half gangster in New York.
Yeah. So yeah, quitting was the best, because I knew that I was on to learning something new. I was on to taking more notes. I was on to figuring out the next thing, and problem solving and all that kind of stuff. So that's really what excited me. It was career jumping in terms of getting to the next level. Obviously, jumping into a better paycheck, but jumping into a better title. But at the end of the day, it was really what can I learn from here? And as they were interviewing me, I definitely was interviewing everybody because I wanted to see, I was calculating how I was building my resume in terms of things that I was learning while I was in corporate America and what I was building from it that I could then eventually eject. I knew that I wanted to get out one day. I just didn't know when. And I think from a very young age, when I stepped into the corporate world after college, I was making sure that I was competitive proof, if that makes sense. So I mean, I graduated undergrad as a graphic designer. It wasn't cutting it for me, and I said, I should move over to the business side of advertising. So I went and got a master's at Pratt University. And who steps into business as a designer? I mean, I had a minor in studio art. Nobody thinks that way, right? So I at a young age realized that I was very artistic, but then I was also sharp when it came to analytics and the data. And for me, like, data is your chess move. So I always was wanting one upping myself so that when I slammed my resume down on somebody's table and I sent my resume out, it was like, wow, this person has a different outlook on things. Like, she's both creative, she's analytical. I can bring the business side. I can also look at artwork that's coming through agencies, or when we're producing things like ads, I can take a critical eye and look at it. So for me, what made me step out was once I left large corporate America in terms of enterprises, and I stepped into the digital world of the tech startups. I left the New York Times, which was bittersweet. We were on launch mode at that point and just launching a bunch of stuff. I had launched the podcasts, Modern Love. I had launched a bunch of other podcasts, as well as the food app, the crossword app. I managed the New York Times Wine Club. So I managed the fun stuff of the New York Times, not necessarily the hard news. And so that really made me operate in a startup mentality within a legacy company. So jumping into the startup world, I really started to notice that there was a lack of understanding how marketing really worked. And it was these young or older sort of founders that were jumping in, had amazing ideas, but then all of a sudden they were like, let's go to market, go, go, go. And then it falls flat. So that line that you pick up from my bio was, I wasn't serving as many founders as I could possibly do, not necessarily like as a solopreneur or, eventually jumping in and creating my own agency. And that's where my book came along. How can I touch as many? Because there's an epidemic in terms of how businesses are supported. We need to stop talking about how people are at Everest, or, taking a picture at Everest and not showing the pictures getting up to Everest, because everyone's like, look at what happened to Amazon, look at what happened to Twitter, look at what happened to Instagram. But people were bootstrapping before then. I mean, Apple bootstrapped before, right? But nobody talks about it. We talk about the glorification of these enterprise companies and not what it took to get there.
For sure. And I'll tell you what I even think is worse. I'll tell you what's even worse.
Yeah.
Everybody loves that picture of Jeff Bezos in the first Amazon office.
Yeah.
You know that what I'm talking about? He's like, and there's like
with a piece of shitty paper like on the wall.
Yeah, exactly.
And
he talks about how he delivered books.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why that enrages me even more. Not that I'm not knocking his success.
Yeah.
But then they jump to today. And like what you wish was, it's cute. You take the picture of the first office, and then now you see the $1 trillion company. Like, there are hundreds of failures along the way.
Yeah.
Hundreds.
Yeah.
And okay, yeah, some people talk about, he started as a bookstore and he made the great pivot because he realized that books weren't a thing. But it's even more than that. It's like, show me the precursor to Alexa that failed.
Yeah.
Like, show me all those things. So I agree with you, and that's part of this journey that I'm on with Keep Hustling is getting to the point where we get to talk to people who are on the way up or have built something or have seen it, and it's like, take us to those moments.
Yeah, yeah.
But I have to ask you.
And I just want to say one thing.
Yeah.
When they talk, and anybody listening, when you're launching something, it's like crawl, walk, run, right? I think in entrepreneurship, it's like crawl, and then it's like you're hanging on to the side of the mountain, and your nails are digging in, and you got so much grit in there, and you're like, I'm gonna die, And
that, by the way, that's the moment that you need it the most. That's the moment you need the strength the most. I quoted last episode. I quote it all the time. The guy, the image of the person who's pushing the rock up the hill.
Yeah.
And they quit just before the top because they just and you have that inner strength. But there's something fascinating about you and your entrepreneurial journey, and that is like you realized, and I didn't even know this before we came on. Like, you realized that you have this hybrid or this intersection between creative and analytic. And what's interesting to me is most people either feel that they're one or the other, or if they're a hybrid, they don't know how to like cultivate that.
Yeah.
It's like they get into a job and they get into the analytics side and they're like, oh, creativity's fun. When I go home on the weekends, I paint because or whatever, like I like to do some graphic design or whatever. But I know that if I want to be successful in my life or in my career, I have to like stick with the analytics side or the opposite side. People are like sitting in these designy type things and then they see the numbers or they hear the numbers or they have this idea, but they just squash it because they're like, hold on, I'm the designer guy or gal. So it's just like, what was it like when you realized now's the time to cultivate the two together? And that's got to be scary as heck because nobody's doing that.
Yeah. So I'm going to go out on a limb here. I mean, look, the world is beautiful. I mean, if people know what the Fibonacci, the golden rule is, I mean, our world is built on numbers, right? And our world is beautiful, but it's all systematic. And so you can definitely be creative and analytical at the same time. You just have to kind of, remove what society tells you in terms of you're one way or the other. You can definitely balance in between the two because there is beauty in both. It's not that creativity is just this, esoterical, let's like dance under the moon type thing. And then analytics is just very like engineer, type systems. But it's also, there is a fine line between both. I mean, there's a reason why the JAMA Medical Journal in the medical field has an art piece on the cover every time, because there is that left and right brain that connect with each other and that is in constant motion with each other. So for me, I found that balance, I think maybe because I took so many art classes and then, I failed miserably at math. I probably I don't even remember, but I struggled in algebra and like all those other classes in terms of, I don't know, what's algebra? Statistics? God, I hated statistics. And my math teacher was obsessed with helping me like get over the the ledge. And I said, just give up. We have calculators now. I can make this work for myself.
My art teacher gave me a B not to show up in 10th grade. That was one of the most impactful things ever to happen. It's a great story. And we actually ended up becoming very close after that.
Yeah.
But I hear what you're saying, but I think you're oversimplifying something that's incredibly complex because it takes a lot of guts to do that. Like the idea of when you go to the job interview or you want to start something and it's so non-traditional, it's so wacky. And I don't mean wacky in a bad way. I'm just saying like I go to conferences, I meet people and you can pick out easily who has the creative brain, who has the analytic brain, who's going to look at the sale this way, and I'm in the risk business, so who's going to look at the risk that way, who's going to paint the picture this way in their brain, who's running the numbers and who's making the image, for lack of a better term.
Yes.
And it's just so fascinating to me that you're able to cultivate the two together. It's incredible. And by the way, I think that's to jump to a little bit of what you're doing now. I think that's a lot of the AI thing.
Yeah.
Is people are realizing that not that the robot has feelings too, because I don't think that's true. But it's the way you feed it, the nutrients that you give the AI.
Yeah.
It doesn't develop feelings, but it develops a creativity in relation to you.
Yes.
And I think that the people that we're seeing that are the most successful with it are the people that are doing both. They're saying, hey, I'm going to double down on the data. I'm going to double down on this world of access that I now have. Like we thought, I don't know how old you are, so and I don't ask people their age, but like I'm almost 39.
Yeah.
And like I joke with my kids that I remember before there was internet.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm an early 80s baby.
Right. And I sound like my parents when I say like, oh, I remember when there was no internet, but like I literally remember dial-up internet.
Same,
like,
AOL.
Not being able to use the phone, right? AOL.
It was like
I like now I now can't like go 2 seconds out shopping, but I'm thinking like they're not even going to remember internet.
No.
There's going to be no internet like in the traditional way that we use it. But
Yeah.
but the opportunity to be creative and work the system to leverage a person's greatest strength is unbelievable.
Yeah. I love that you bring up the AI component. I hadn't thought about it that way, but you're absolutely right, because you're seeing a lot of engineers and people that, have a background in code, but that are coming up with these brilliant creative concepts of how to work and manage the AI and have it spit out something phenomenal, which is the balance between the two, right?
100%.
So yeah, I really like that analogy. I didn't really think of that.
Also, I don't appreciate that you just moved to your right and now you're exposing the Miami pillow over your left shoulder.
But guess what's next to it?
Oh my God.
New York.
The disrespect. Hello, government. Listen to me, government peeps who are listening to this. When you go to pick up her license, grab the pillow on the way out.
I can't.
No,
I can't.
Leave the camera right there, actually. I want to ask you a question because I started doing this with people's backgrounds and I'm having fun with it.
Yeah.
First question, be honest, because we'll know if you're lying. Did you read all those books?
Yes.
Okay. Which one was the most impactful in your life?
Mick Jagger's. Not Mick.
Mick
No,
Jagger's.
no, I take that back. Not the most impactful. The most entertaining was Mick Jagger, because I didn't realize what a wild, crazy man he was.
Crazy, no?
Yeah.
I didn't read the book,
Absolutely
but yeah.
insane. And it was a page turner. I was like, oh my God, you're crazy.
What's he going to do next? Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. And then the most impactful was Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss, who was the OG of hypnotherapy for his patients that did past life regression.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to probably link those, but most importantly, I literally never do this, but I'm so inspired by the Saudi. Once you drop the Saudi Arabia part, I'm like, okay, we're going to give her a little promotion here. As long as you admit that you're not a New Yorker. Tell us about the book. You said June, so the episode will release probably right around launch time, if not right before.
Yeah.
We'll put a link in the show notes. But actually, you know what? I'm sorry. I want to ask you about another piece from your bio, then we'll get to the book. Okay? Even if we go over time, I promise you I'm going to give you the promotion for the book. Sacha challenges the broken incentive of modern marketing. This is so good. Oh my God. And equips founders with strategy that fits where they actually are not where someone else was. Guys, buckle up. Buckle up. Because complexity is expensive. Clarity compounds. Sacha, builds conviction. Go.
So taking back to the serving part of, that I left because I wasn't serving, this is exactly why. Every time I have a new client that comes my way and, we talk and before we sign on the dotted line, marketing sucks. I've spent X amount of money. I've lost this. I've lost that. Somebody told me that they could 10X my business. They could do this. They could do that. The number one most powerful thing as human beings is education. And education is empowering. If we don't understand what we're paying for, we can definitely be trapped into a black hole because there is going to be snake oil out there. Yes, I can tell you probably a good 40% of the marketing companies that are out there aren't going to deliver what they tell you they're going to deliver. And that's a problem for me. And I think that, being a half marketer, half psychologist to my clients, it sucks that I'm having to rehabilitate them back into thinking marketing will actually work for them. And it does. And it's a lot of fun. And we have fun doing it. But they come with baggage and they come with a burnout of, wasting dollars that they didn't have. And to me, that sucks. When I work with clients, their money is my money. And I understand what it's like because I'm a business owner myself and the hustle is real and every dollar needs to be squeezed. And I have to be honest, the New York Times taught me that because we didn't have a large budget. You would think enterprise, ton of money. But no, it wasn't government money. When I worked for the Army National Guard, we had like gold of money. I mean, we hired Kid Rock and Three Doors Down, like
don't depress us
to do a commercial for us, right?
Yeah,
but the New York Times, like sometimes I had $500 to $1,000 to put out a campaign. Yes, we had an audience and so on and so forth, but I had to squeeze every dollar, right? And so it taught me how to have high impact at a low cost. And the way I strategize with my clients is not running a Facebook campaign, not doing, Google ads, doing SEO, yes, but then let's be creative. And I think this is where my creative brain comes in with the analytical side. Let's think about ways where we can get in front of your client that's not natural or not systematic as what you think marketing is. And we can find ways to touch them. I mean, think about the case study of what's that water in a can, Liquid Death.
Oh yeah, Liquid Death.
Phenomenal.
Oh my God. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
So good.
They just went right to the source.
Yeah, so good. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Tell us about the book.
So my book comes out June 23rd, Empower Your Marketing. And it is basically a guide to walk you through the maze, how to get from the start and get out, but you're never really getting out. Marketing is a cycle. So my cycle is, think of a infinity sign with an extra circle, and you're going to be moving in through the different phases throughout their development of your business. It's never going to stop. And once you understand that, you'll know how to ebb and flow as your business grows, as your business, basically think of a rubber band, stretches and constricts. That's going to be how your business is all day long. So how do you adjust marketing as things are going in that direction? So it's hand holding. It's meant to be a guide. It's meant for you to come back to it multiple times, and it's there to support you, and it's there to educate you first and foremost, so that you know when to say yes and know when to say no when people approach you and tell you they can 10x your business.
I think that people and businesses are far more agile and malleable than they think they are. And the second that people realize that, that's where the success really comes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's almost like they say, until you say no to the first prospect, you don't realize how empowering it is. Now you can't say no too often.
Yeah.
But it's that moment of when you have that clarity that when you started your business, you never thought you never get to that. And I think that that's what then a message can be disseminated in the right way when you realize that.
Yep. Totally.
Wow, this is awesome. Saudi Arabia, Texas,
Saudi Arabia. You got to go.
Syria. To what? No. I feel like it's hot. It's not for me. Like AC.
The capital is hot, but Jeddah, which is where I grew up by the Red Sea, it's super humid. So if you've been to Miami in August, you'll be able to survive.
Guess where I don't go?
Miami in August.
Very good. I feel like, you know what? You're talking about being able to read the room. You got it. And you analyze this perfectly.
I don't blame you.
Guess where I don't go? My wife is from the San Fernando Valley. We got married June 6, 2010.
So beautiful.
It was so beautiful. It was 107 degrees at our outdoor ceremony.
Okay,
I thought I was
outside of the summer days.
And now here's what you're going to say. You're going to say, oh, it's dry heat. It's not. It's like, no.
I know dry heat.
No bueno.
Yeah, no bueno.
No
indeed.
bueno. Okay, yeah. This is a lot of fun. You're awesome. Everyone should check you out. Follow what's going on with you. Get the book. It's coming out. I'm super excited that we did this today.
Same, likewise.
I'm super excited that you left New York and went to Miami because I don't think it would have been the right, whatever. I'm just kidding. You're welcome back anytime.
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of city we are. Sasha, as you know, we have a closing tradition on this podcast where we ask our guests to leave us with their favorite motivational, inspirational quote and what it means to them and their hustle. So with that, I'm going to turn the floor back over to you and say thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Aaron. This was a ton of fun. I really appreciate it. My favorite quote to date, I used to have I never journaled as a kid, but I had a book full of quotes that I collected. And now I take pictures of people's bumper stickers because I think it tells a lot about everyone. Offline, I'll tell you my favorite one. So my favorite quote is "Know Thyself" by Socrates, because I realized after I finished my book that I wrote my first chapter in the book that was all about know thyself, because a lot of business owners are standing in their own way. When you create a business, it is a mirror of who you are as a person, but keep going because it's a learning lesson and you're cleaning out the cobwebs and figuring out who you are and your business will fly. So know thyself is what's holding true to my heart these days.
I absolutely love that. This has been another episode of Keep Hustling. Remember, do well by doing good. And of course, and always, keep hustling. All right, hustlers, that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode. Thank you for listening. The listeners are the most important part of this show. If you like what you heard, please leave us a review wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more listeners. Plus, be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. We have some amazing guests and topics lined up for you, and we don't want you to miss out. And finally, if you have any suggestions, comments, or even just want to say hello, please feel free to reach out to us on all social media platforms. We are Keep Hustling Pod on Instagram, X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We would love to hear from you to continue the conversation. Thanks again for tuning in and supporting our podcast. We truly appreciate each and every one of you. Until next time, stay curious, stay hungry, and keep hustling.